Jello swim.
All right. I think I'm almost ready there. All right. I think I'm
Jello
done.
swim, huh? All right, great. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Very delighted to see that some of you have put the basketball game aside and come to enjoy a little bit of verse, a little bit of poetry, a little bit of absurdity. I'm sure we'll have. Um, these are both poets that I've known for some time. Ken Weichel is going to be the first reader. He's been a distinguished publisher of Androgyne Press, which has had a great variety of literary effusions over the years. And he's also a collagist, accomplished poet in his own right. And it gives me great pleasure to have him inaugurate the evening with his reading. Ken Weichel.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Eric, Jerry, and Michael for allowing us the opportunity to share our work with you guys. Uh, I'm really very appreciative of the opportunity. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming today. I know the basketball finals is right now, and from what I saw just now, that the Warriors are behind by 2 at halftime. But they are a great comeback team, so third quarter is theirs, and we'll see. Anyway, I've got some poems here I'd like to read from my new book, and also some more recent ones. The poems from my book are basically poems from the last 30 years that I've been writing. And I'm just glad that I finally was able to put them together into a book and get them out. So I'll start with Ocean and Sun. Peering through this watery expanse, your burning stare evaporates my boredom with frothy dreams that pierce my melancholic pride. When I betrayed the secrets locked in oysters, your fleeting glance blushed my diaphanous skin a teal blue. I would abdicate this pearly throne of shells, but without the gold a chance, I wait for your fiery kiss to emerge from the algae of the night that floats overhead like the silver belly of a shark. Beneath the surface, I have grown arms of seaweed. My eyes close and my thoughts struggle to swim, but without tails they sink to the bottom. Cloistered within this narcissistic sea, I fear my briny surface shall never share more than your cool reflection. Okay. Next one. You sizzle through the darkness. You sizzle through the darkness, ravaging the oxygen, impregnating the sky with ozone, secreting the sweetness of high voltage. Won't you see me? I'm your color. Won't you visit me? I'm your voice. Won't you dazzle me? I'm your need. Won't you love me? I'm your keep. Won't you trust me? I'm your watch. Won't you burn me? I'm your skin. Won't you strike me? I'm your face. During this time period that these poems were written, I did a lot of traveling on taking boats and trains and buses, cars, all that stuff. So I had to deal with a lot of tickets. So this one's called Ticket Number 2. Before sailing, a man takes tickets. I hand him my change and get back a stub. Crossing the rickety plank, my other half waves from the thicket on the dock. I'm torn up. The stick of a ship sails by sleight of hand, each rubbing the other like a cricket. I turn over the ticket, fingering the stub, good for one, and she, stiff as a plank, palms her other half, her left hand waving. One of my favorite poets and writers is Edgar Allan Poe. And I really liked his tales, his detective tales, The Purloined Letter, The Murder in the Rue Morgue. And I like his character, C. Augusta Dupin, the stereotype, or the original Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, this is a case for C. Augusta Dupin. He finds you hanging from an extinguished chandelier, swinging with the grace of perfume, shrouding the vacancy of the room, exciting his nostrils with your miracle of suspended animation. Your musky robes swirl between his fingers like smoke that performs a ballet along the outline of his aroused suspicion. Languidly caressing the press of air, your arms, unhinged, resemble the knobless door hanging in a broken frame. It is the hour when you will ignite his imagination as he weaves the facts together in the solitude of his inspiration. Entombed within your purse, dangling clues await their turn to arouse an investigation of your premature death. Okay, next. Is called Tender Nothings. There is nothing here, nothing but these frame buildings, nothing but this long house, nothing here inside but women, women and men. None of the women inside go outside. They come in. They belong to the house. Outside, the women outside, between the longhouses, beneath the floorboards, the ones without hair, the ones without a house, wait for their turn, wait for their hair. The ones in the room, the roomers, don't care. None of them know each other. The ones that room together don't know. All they know is the room. There is no room. The men are close to the women, so close there is room for nothing else. The ones together are full, full of one another. None of the men have been this full. They have filled these women. They never go home. These men will not return home. The ones that return never enter. Love does not enter these rooms. Love enters the women, enters her eyes, enters her arms. Love knows no rules. One man calls names to fill a room. Each room is filled. The ones calling names, men's names, calls numbers, calls a number of women to fill the rooms. The one calling names knows the numbers, knows the names. The rooms are full of names and numbers. The one calling names and numbers, bald from one end to the other, walks the planks, one room to the next. This one knows the rules, rules of the house. This ruler wears a gun. Rule of gun, rules of the house do not rule the women. The men are full of fear. Full of fear, the men are empty. The empty ones fear the pain. Empty, the ones full of pain never love. Barren woman, full of love, never feel pain. Their painful fears are empty. These women are full. These empty men are filled with love. They know the rules. The men know their names and numbers. The rule of love fulfilled empties each room. Each morning the room's empty. No one loves the ruler. The one ruling knows the names, knows the numbers, knows the rooms. The rule of love knows nothing of tenderness. The men full of tender, the women tender themselves to the men. The empty men full of tender, filled for the first time. A tender woman, a woman full of love, turns to an empty man, turns the man full of tender from terror, turns the terrible ones from the man, returning the tenderness of love. The women never leave here exchanging the tender given them for a number in the house. The tender women leave no room for fear. The one rule of love the men know. Okay. This is called Scarabus. The sphere that is the soul moves across the desert of eternity. It rolls smoothly or bounces crazily along, and within its soft shell we live, thinking what happens to us must be our own work. Yet it is truly beyond us, for our soul, itself directed, knows only vaguely what pushes it across this wasteland. The jostling within this fleshy ball we so often call our lives and deem so much our own is nothing more than a beetle growing inside this putrid flesh. And we will emerge as a flamingo to renew our solitary voyage. Okay. Very early on, I was influenced quite heavily by surrealism, and so I read quite a bit of Andre Breton's work. And this is a poem based on a quote he said, which is, "The only news I need, I read in the morning paper." The morning comes folded, landing loudly against the steps of sleep. The day begins with the snap of a rubber band. A spider has woven silver threads around the paper. Pulp, men and women parade as articles. A man and women tangle, unable to free themselves. Their voices punctuate the morning with misspelled words. The news adheres to school children who turn their books over to avoid grammar that describes coats as nouns and shoes as verbs. The news sticks to creased people as they walk in columns down the page. Okay, so this one is called The Pursuit of Pleasure, or Rejecting the Pedestrian. Kindling the air into flames, this engine flaunts the terrible monotony of the road, the violent precision of sparks mesh with the greed of rubber compelling the horizon to retreat behind each curve. White guardrails envious of the flickering chrome waver upon their bulky stumps. Telephone poles bend closer to the pavement, hoping to stifle the intimate hiss of gears. The hidden potency of beveled teeth arrogantly exhausts the oil of caution, relentlessly pursuing the pleasures of acceleration. Unleashing a clamor of obscenities, this unyielding passion cuts through every stop sign, freezing the blurry pedestrians with their own hideous reflections. Okay, so there we go. Get back on track. This one is called Zable. You offered me 9 books for a price. I refused. You burned 3 of them and offered me the remaining 6 at the original price. I refused. You burned 3 more and offered me the 3 last books at the original price. I bought them. Okay, so, okay. We'll do this one. The lizard. The lizard that is my flickering tongue tastes your lips in cold blood. We slap our chests together, our legs coil tightly. Greedily you bite me, dig your teeth in. My blood gushes past your swollen lips, seeking the soft nest of your heart. Once your satisfied eyes close, I tenderly shed my skin before ransacking your room, searching for the hard cash. You wake to find my prior skin, drawers empty, upholstery ripped, the brilliance of your smile gone. Okay, spring flowers. Spring flowers of yellow bells and blue lilies wrapped in slick green paper grow unnoticed in the back seat. Behind my back, the lilies giggle the moment we open the car door. Explanations slump to the floor, crinkling the green wrapping paper. The bouquet hides a child. She slouches outside in the flower bed, waiting for an opening in the embracing thicket of our love. Pressed between white sheets, my salty dew impregnates you with green dreams, while doubtful sleep circles like a lost bee. Okay. Let me get this. Okay, now we got it. Okay, the book that I've read these poems from is called Azure. And although this isn't exactly a poem, it's called Azure, and I would like to read it. Today the azure is everywhere. You smell it all day. Little children on the swings fill their lungs with it. Dogs lap it up or fetch it for their masters. Sparrows lift their wings and fly through it. Trees shiver from its passing. It bursts from the dark pupils of so many women's eyes that even the April sun dims in comparison. As I walk through a park tunnel, the azure resonates within my chest like an echo of a flute or a pipe. A spark could ignite the whole sky into an inferno of passion. Only by the most concerted effort to avoid striking a flinting conversation do I remain dispassionate. A single glance burdened with expectations reveals the danger. Today, everyone consumes their despair, so nothing is left to smother the glowing embers of passion. The danger is obvious. If the rising joy cannot be extinguished, a holocaust of unanticipated magnitude will engulf each and every passerby. Escape is unthinkable. The only defense is submission. Today, dreams traverse the park in horse-drawn carriages. Leisurely, they circle the bandstand and the tea garden, stopping briefly to watch the buffalo grazing. At the children's playground, they jump from their carriage and climb onto the merry-go-round, then run over to the slide and sweep down yelling. Their enthusiasm for the unadulterated joy exceeded only by the song of a single brown sparrow. Today, not a single marvelous fantasy is abandoned. They all meet on the meadow for a picnic and softball game. The depth of the sky releases its color, and azure drenches everything. Azure floods me with excitement I can't contain. I fear tomorrow when I become a chalk outline on the sidewalk where I fell into the gulf of your blue eyes. Okay, so if my time is still okay, got a couple new poems I'd like to read. This one is called A Handout. I don't have a name, I don't have a number, I don't have an address, I don't have a phone, I don't have shoes, I don't have what makes a person a person. Yet I'm still alive. I survive. I have nothing more to do, giving myself away, noticed only by what is left of me. This one is called Question. You asked, how are you? I know you really don't want to know. This time I'm pretending to believe you do. I'm broken. Things don't work as they did only a while ago. Words that came easily have fled into vacancy. With the hardest to come, I wear a weariness. The feeling of being washed up on an abandoned island, empty conversation with mirages, a single voice nobody ever answers. I pass without notice, a mirage casting no shadow, no next 5 years to project, just to ignore, waiting to die without a trace. When I die, would you say my name the next day? Okay, so my final piece is based on a poem by Bob Kaufman. Bob's poem was called I Am a Camera. It's from his Ancient Rain collection. This is called Creation is Perfect. Indeed, creation is perfect. Nothing changes perfection, but perfection changes everything around it. If we are all part of creation, then we too are perfect. As in Homer's Odyssey and Iliad, the perfect hero, either Achilles or Odysseus, is the subject of the tales. And in the end, even the perfect hero dies. We are the hero of our lives on an odyssey through creation. The trials and struggles in our lives are transformed into the battles on the plains of Ilium. We fight overwhelming odds to reach our goal. Sometimes we triumph, sometimes we fail. But each encounter challenges us to remember our humanity. Those of us that have been gifted with courage and wisdom inspire the rest of us with their example. After the battles and despite all the temptations on the homeward journey, they lead us back home with grace and humanity. The tragedy is that we live in perfection, but we no longer see it. Creation is perfect. There is nothing to change. The universe does not change. The seasons do not change. The gods do not change. human nature does not change. Our unique trait of thought, our talent, reveals itself as an Achilles heel. This is our fatal weakness. For as we think, we begin to believe in our own superiority and separate ourselves from perfection. In wanting to know the difference between good and evil, we have separated creation into the good and the bad. Our lives are battles to keep the good and bad separated, to help friends and fight foes. What makes Homer's tale so powerful is that we are Achilles and we are Odysseus. How we conduct ourselves during the heat of these trials, how we triumph or fail, how our human weakness, our Achilles heel, exposes us to choices with consequences. These are what all tales are about, how to find perfection, a paradise lost, that never changed, was never lost. Perfection is and will be evermore. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. Ken Weichel. That was very nice, and I'm looking forward to hearing my good friend Jeffrey Zable, who is a distinguished percussionist in the Afro-Cuban folkloric tradition, retired school teacher, a wannabe dog walker. That's kind of an aspirational thing that he may put together or not. But yeah, he has a wonderful absurdist sensibility, and I'm sure he's going to entertain us, perhaps more than we can even bear. We'll see. Jeffrey Zable.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody who's here. And it's a pleasure to be reading with my friend, Ken Weichel, who's also published a couple of my early books. And friend of mine, an early mentor, passed away recently. I'm sure you all know who he is. Have heard his name, know who he is. I'm speaking of Jack Hirschman. I'm dedicating my reading to Jack. This is called A Serious Consideration. Sometimes I think about the advantages to being a corpse. Corpses don't worry about food or how they will get money to buy it. They don't feel sad about not having friends or influential contacts. They don't get bored and lonely and pay psychologists to tell them they're okay. They don't work at meaningless jobs and come home tired and angry at the end of the day. Corpses are meditative beings who accept themselves and make best with what space they are given. Even as their flesh begins to mold and wear away, they are able to keep calm and relaxed. They're under no pressure to be something they are not. They will let you just hurry along your way. Idealistic high school weekend. Told my old man to stick it up his ass, drank a case of beer, popped a couple of hymens, blackened 14 eyes, drove my Chevy off a cliff, set fire to my homework when I finally got in at 4 a.m. What a weekend it was. The natural balance. Trying to imagine all the people throughout history who were killed by their fellow man, woman. Wars, gang fights, one-on-one shootings, stabbings, etc. Think of all those people had lived what the world would look like today. Malthus was correct. Somebody's got to pay to help preserve the natural balance. A pig's pig. Once upon a time, there were 3 pigs. One became choice bacon, the other choice ham, while the third went on a killing spree of butchers throughout the land. By the time they caught him, he was the most prolific serial killer in history. His fame rivaled Hansel, Aladdin, and even Little Red. He was the swine of swine, who to his dying day never expressed a single word of remorse. The final curtain. It wasn't easy to teach my pet fly to stand on her hind feet and do the can-can or backflips off the stage with every performance. What I never anticipated was that an evil spider would be lurking in the shadows. By the time I found her, she was 6 stiff legs, an empty head, and 2 silver wings pointing toward heaven. This is a true story. This is no nursery rhyme. The capsule from the burning bottle turned everything dark, and nothing was ever the same. Baba Black Sheep said he would bite me with his iron teeth, and the children, once known as Jack and Jill, were now Black and Vil. Vil standing for villainous, as she said to me, "You're old enough to have amassed a lot of money, and we're going to take it. Buy guns, candy, and vacations in the Caribbean. Live like royalty for the rest of our days." So, with nothing left to lose, I took another capsule, which put me to sleep for a long, long time. And when I awakened, I looked into the eyes of Baba Black Sheep, who'd made a hole in my chest and one in the back of my head. Remembering Jean-Paul Sartre. I remember as children, we played tag in front of his house, and even then he would say things like, "If I emit and I tag you, it will mean nothing. Even if I tagged you 1,000,000 times, it would still mean nothing. Therefore, I could tag you or not tag you, and in the end, what is true is that nothingness prevails, though being here means the game is us and we are the game, which once we are gone will no longer be remembered by you or me for the rest of eternity, if you know what I mean. A made boy. Being conferred as a made boy was the highlight of my life. I walked among my classmates like royalty, the girls especially treating me like a king, offering me the best part of their lunches. If we were playing basketball on the schoolyard, the other team members never put their hands up when I was taking a shot. And when lining up to return to the classroom, if I wasn't initially in front, they would know to move behind me. Even the teachers treated me special when they learned that I had made the grade. Not once did I get less than an A on my report card, except for that one time I almost burned down the classroom during a science experiment, provoking the teacher to give me an A-, which led to their not only being fired, but never seen again. The transformation. Somehow, little dog turned into big dog, and now he don't want to shake hands no more. He won't roll over for no one, and he certainly ain't gonna fetch no stick. He just want to lie there next to the stove and dream his life away. And in most respects, I can't blame him, 'cause I mostly want to do the same. And just the other day, I thought I heard him say, if we's just gonna die, then what does it matter? I looked at him for the longest time, until finally he lifted his head and nodded toward his bowl, which I guess I didn't fill high enough that morning. And when he got to his feet and walked over there, I reflected on when he used to be Little Dog and was always wagging his tail, like being alive was the greatest thing in the world.
You'll have to take that to the SPCA.
Thank you. Unbecoming. It was a burning sleep, and when I awakened, it felt like my body had gone through a huge osterizer. The bones had mixed with the blood to make a fine concoction for some unnameable animal. And because I didn't want to think about it, I turned on the television to a Western in which two sides were shooting at each other with 6 guns. I recognized one of the shooters, but realized he had died at least 20 years ago. Though he never became a huge star, I'm going to read this again. It was a burning sleep, and when I awakened, it felt like my body had gone through a huge osterizer. The bones had mixed with the blood to make a fine concoction for some unnameable animal. And because I didn't want to think about it, I turned on the television to a Western in which two sides were shooting at each other with 6 guns. I recognized one of the shooters, but realized he had died at least 20 years ago, that he never became a huge star, but had that face which was perfect for Westerns, usually playing a bad guy, causing trouble, like a lot of people these days. Except that now, people are killing each other for no other reason than they're angry at the world for what they've become, which is very unbecoming. The last time I ever saw Jean Cocteau. Walking with Jean Cocteau and his pet lobster that he kept on a leash, I noticed he would occasionally spit on the crustacean's head. And when I asked him about it, he said, it makes him think he's in his native habitat. Otherwise, he would expire before I got him back in the tub. And when I asked him if he ever ate lobster, his expression became hostile, and he responded, would you eat your mother, your father, your sister, your brother? After that, he was silent all the way back to his apartment. And when I said, a biento, he responded, adieu. One time with Jim. Jim, I said, what possessed you to pull out your pecker and wank it in front of all those people? To which he responded, it's a very fine pecker that has ridden with me on many a storm, that has lit my fire when the sleet of life has chilled my bones, when the backdoor man has come for me, hatchet in hand, while LA women laughed like hyenas in celluloid nightgowns. And when strange days led me to a Spanish caravan on a moonlight drive into hell, I knew that the end was near, that only by showing what I was made of would I ultimately get back to the crystal ship and to the lizard king inside. And when people are strange, what choice do we have if we want to survive and break on through to the other side? Makes perfect sense to me now, I responded, and handed him back the bottle. How are we doing in time-wise? Okay, this is called This Too. I felt very sad, and you said, this too shall pass. The door opened, and someone entered with a child on a leash. He is more than a pet, the person said, and if you'd like to pet him, it only costs 50 cents. I then remembered the time a teacher embarrassed me in class by calling on me when I wasn't ready. "Child," she said, "if you sailed north on the Pacific, would you eventually wind up in Japan or Elvis Presley's house in Memphis?" With nothing left to lose, I said I was leaving and that I was not only going to find a new school and new parents, but a new and better way of seeing the world. I said this to anyone who would listen, but as I looked around the room, I saw that everyone was sucking their thumb and rolling their eyes, as if I'd said the dumbest thing they'd ever heard. I felt very sad, and you said, "This too shall pass." Here's another true story. This is called San Francisco Encounter. I was sitting alone in a cafe writing a poem when I looked up to see Richard Brautigan and Charles Baudelaire enter arm in arm. They both seemed joyous, maybe drunk, obviously sharing great appreciation for one another. As they walked past me, I said to Charles, "I thought you died a while back." Stopping in their tracks, it was obvious that I'd said the worst thing possible. Taking off his floppy cowboy hat, Brautigan started hitting me with it while yelling, "You son of a bitch! Do you see what you've done to my only true friend?" Looking down, I saw to my amazement that Baudelaire had turned into a skeleton without a trace of meat on him. I tried to apologize, but realizing it was too late, all I could think of doing was buying Brautigan a cup of tea and a piece of pie. Sitting together, I tried to make up for what I did with some lively conversation and flattery of his writing. In the end, we walked out of the cafe arm in arm, as if we'd been friends for a long, long time. Happily ever after. In an old episode of one of my poems, I was a lustful young man, combing the streets for any stray sex I could find. I looked under tires, beneath doormats, and even inside keyholes just large enough to see some light within. I walked for miles without thirst or hunger, and nearly forgot my troubles until I saw a sign that read, "This way down." Fearing the end was near, I tried to smile at anyone who would smile back at me. And when night came, I curled up in doorways, holding onto my privates as if it was money. It was only when my poem ran completely out of gas that I relied on my memories to sustain me. They were all that was left of the road that led to the promised land. And when I finally arrived, I blew into the ear of the one I loved, and then and when I finally arrived, I blew into the ear of the one I loved, who then blew back at me, and we lived happily ever after. The picture. My wife is in the chicken, cooking a kitchen, and the lights keep blinking on and off. I'm praying I don't age another inch because the hearse outside is honking, and every single memory brings pain to my ears. My friends all say they know so well what's wrong with the picture. You can drive into a mirror with your foot to the floor, but the eyes never lie. When your bones no longer sleep, it won't be long before you rise to the ceiling. And if you think you can change it by burning your pajamas, you're wasting your breath on a 10-cent cigar. It only gets worse as you reel in the line faster and faster to save your life that's come and gone with yesterday's milk. God, I'm feeling sad reading my own work. Who would have thought? Okay, a lonely guy. On the streetcar heading downtown, everyone looked like some kind of animal. One was a vulture, another an armadillo, another a chimpanzee. Turning to the pit bull next to me, I asked, "Have you ever been to war?" And he answered, "I am always at war. I kill for the thrill of it." Hem was correct when he said that war brings out the best in us. Moving to another seat, I couldn't tell what kind of animal was sitting next to me. "I'm a hybrid," she answered. "Mother was a cockroach and father was a giraffe." I was about to ask how they did it when the hippo driver announced that the streetcar was broken and that everyone would have to walk from there. And even on the street, everyone looked like some kind of animal, whereas I remained the same, a lonely guy in a world that seldom made any sense. The real surrealism. "Louis Bunn," I said, "you're not well. But I liked one of your movies, that obscure object of desire, as I can still visualize a couple of scenes from it now, some 40 years later. But then I lose track of time, and things that happened 15 minutes ago could have occurred 40 years ago, and things that happened 40 years ago could have happened this morning. And I guess this is the real surrealism of life, or maybe just my life, which in many respects seems to have lost its luster, as it's hard enough for me to get out of bed after my wife has been gone for a couple of hours, wash my face, eat the same old cereal, and then turn on the news, which never makes much difference to me anyway, unless it's presented by that blonde who parts her hair on the opposite side and has the most kissable lips one could ask for. But I'm not asking, because I'm a happily married man, at least most of the time. All right, a few more. Tell me if I'm cooked. Huh? Never? Okay. I'll stay up here all night. I'll go home and get some more work if that's what. All right. The happiest man in the world. Here's another true story. A friend of mine told me that he knew a guy who was the happiest man in the world. So I said, "Well, I have to meet this guy. Take him to me." And as soon as we were face to face, I said to him, "Hello, motherfucker. I hear you're the happiest man in the world." "Oh, ha, 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 ha." He laughed for almost a minute. Then I said, "I'm going to punch you so hard, all your teeth will come out." Again he laughed, but this time for twice as long. And when I pulled out a gun and fired it, missing his head by no more than inches, he responded, "You're making me so happy, I think I'm going to cry," which is exactly what he did. Only they were tears of joy, unlike the tears I was used to. Rejection slip. First off, thank you so much for submitting to our humble magazine. While I loved your poems, and I mean loved, I must inform you that we're going to pass on them this time. This passing in no way reflects on the quality of your work. There are 3 of us here at this humble magazine, and one of the editors reacted a bit negatively to your work, as she expressed that the content of your poems reminded her of her rotten childhood, in which all she wanted to do was grow up and leave home forever. She voted against accepting your poems, and her good friend, who is also one of the editors of our humble magazine, went along with her. I alone loved your work and voted to publish all your poems except one, the one about meeting God face to face and giving him a piece of your mind for allowing so much bad stuff to happen to innocent people throughout history. I felt that poem was a bit over the top, and being a religious person myself, I felt it was not fair to blame God for all the ills that have happened to people throughout history. Other than that, I think you're on to something very special, and I hope that you will send us more poems in the future. We are filled for the next 10 years or so, but after that, we will open again for submissions. Please keep a lookout for us, and here's wishing you continued success with your writing. All right, couple more. And then we'll call this a night. Oh, there's another true story. The price. I awakened to find several of Dolly's ants crawling over my bare chest, and one of his fish was squirming beneath my pillow. So the first thing I did was fill the bathtub with water and put the fish into it. Then, as I was about to brush away the ants, there was a knock at the front door. Looking through the peephole, I immediately saw that it was Salvador himself, dressed like a traditional Scotsman, and he was holding a package. Playing like I didn't know who he was, I said, "How may I help you?" Putting the package in my hands, he said, "It's a gift from our mother. Open it right away." Closing the door, I went into the kitchen and used a knife to open the box. There inside was a painting of me, Salvador, and an unfamiliar older woman, the three of us sitting on tired-looking burros, and in the background were some of Dolly's signature symbols like crosses, disconnected body parts, and melted timepieces. Nothing seemed out of place except for the fact that I was missing 2 front teeth and had a buzz-style haircut. The painting was signed by Dolly, which I knew would make it very valuable. I had it framed and subsequently sold it for a great deal of money. Unfortunately, as hard as I tried to get rid of the ants, they always remain. Okay, I'm going to read 2 more. This is called No Choice. I'm no longer swimming to save my life, but I am listening to the great sages of the past, Felix the cat, Bullwinkle the moose, Tweety. I listen to them and feel some semblance of hope that the world will turn out okay, and that just because I'm going to die doesn't necessarily mean that life has no meaning. In fact, I believe that someone somewhere will pretty much carry on with a composite of my general mentality, and that in a thousand generations, my thinking will become so refined that those of my kind will have no choice but to listen to my every word. All right, I'm going to end on an upbeat note. This is called What's in My Wallet. Your ass is in my wallet, and I use it to buy all kinds of things when I don't feel like using cash or cards. Why, just yesterday, I used it to buy some rope to hang myself in case I got any more depressed. And the guy at the pawn shop gave me a gun and some bullets for your ass and said he'd be glad to shoot me, but that I'd have to give him a day's notice, as he's not always available. And I used your ass to speak to those who made me sad, just by virtue of being in the same world as I am. Politicians, lawyers, advertising executives. I told them that your ass wanted them to leave so that decent people like myself could live again. That I'd celebrate by throwing a big-ass party and donate the wallet to an insect colony who could use it as a pillow or eat the damn thing. Thank you very much.
All right, Jeffrey Zable. Right, there we go. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, sir.
You were as absurd as we hoped. I guess we're going to have probably 5-10 minute break, and then we'll do the open session of the reading. So anyone who wants to get on the list and hasn't already signed up should sign up with Jerry. And and then we'll do the open in about
But first we have to promote the bucket.
Oh, we got to promote the bucket, right?
Now, those of you who have been here before know that this sign really says "Dollars for Poets." So this is poetry in translation tonight. Musicians stand in for the true musicians of the word, the poets. So we're able to do a tiny honorarium for and it's really tiny, for the featured readers. But if you can throw in a buck or two, it fleshes things out a little bit. So do that if you can.
All right, beautiful, everyone.
All right.
Chill for a minute, and we'll get to the open reading part.
Does
anybody want to sign up to read?
Yeah, man.
Anybody want to sign up to read in the open?
Oh, yeah.
Very nice, Ken.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
I like it.
Did you sign up?
Fonte, you got that down for posterity.
Yeah.
Thousand years from now, we'll check it. Hey, look at
1,000 years.
Do you want to sign up at all?
Here, put some in for me.
Wait a minute, you gonna give yourself one?
I'll just put some in.
That's economic theory there.
Thank you. Thanks, very nice meeting you.
on the scene at the same time.
Thank you very much.
You guys are contemporaries and you come around about the same time? To the Northeast poetry world or whatever.
He and I have known each other for as long as 40 years.
Yeah, actually, this book was the first book I published.
So it's the 80s?
We're going back to the early 80s. They're all out of print. Well, I'm out of print.
So there you go, yeah. At least you're not a Remainer.
There we go.
Yeah. So you've been sympathetic all along. Causing trouble.
Not that many places to read poetry in the city.
Well, maybe it's true.
I think Virgin Series is completely gone.
Yeah, I guess so. It is, yeah, and that's been gone already a couple of years, I guess.
Are there any other series?
Well, a little bit. I mean, the Sacred Grounds are still going. A couple things that Sacred Grounds are kept up. Yeah, as far as I know. As far as I know.
all open.
No, I think it's still featured.
Yeah, they have features.
What's that guy's name? Brady?
Yeah, Dan Brady.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's decent. But what else is going on? I don't really know, but there must be a thing or two. I just think nothing much going on in Northridge. Well, yeah, that's doing the thing with Tom and Jerry.
North Beach is hard, man. Go there and Irwin Getty gone, Hirschman gone. It's not the same.
You guys just gotta step up, you could change the name for Phil Gary and Hirschman. So you wouldn't know it,
Yeah,
I just
North Beach is town, you could call yourself up.
Pat yourself off, absolutely,
That was a great guy, man. Anytime I've run into him, he's ringing him up. Don't hurry. Just don't get into political discussion.
Yeah. So Fonte, when did you come to the city? Fonte, when did you come to the city?
What's that?
Yeah. Yeah. So also the 80s. 13, 14 or 30 or 40?
15 years.
Okay.
2 years.
Well, longer than that. We've been married for years together. 15 years.
Okay, all right.
God, well, we've been married 13 years. We were dating
You sure it wasn't aspirational?
I'm surprised that you married.
She's trying to forget it. Okay, I'm gonna write another poem.
Yeah, but this car just since 1999, so it's part of the system.
How many years have you been performing?
How long have you writing?
No, performing.
Oh, a long time.
What do you mean?
Well, off and on for probably 40 years. I used to perform, have a group with Tom Cousson. You remember Tom Cousson?
Yeah.
He and I had a performance group called Zable in the late 70s, early 80s. We performed all over the Bay Area. We did our closure over rhythms with a drum. He's gone now. He passed away. He ran the intersection politics there. So for him, I'm not
So
you remember Tom
You
Cousson?
know, I'm reading all that.
Yeah.
So Michael said you're a busy professional.
What's that?
You're a busy conga player.
Yeah, I've been playing this many years. I played Michael and I, we play a lot of rumors together. What's that? Gotta do something or we go mad.
Yeah, but I can see performance.
Well, thank you.
Not that yours are.
Everybody's different.
Very good fun. Yeah, so was North Beach the locus of things in 1980? Were there other focus points besides?
Well, this guy had a great press.
Yeah.
Talk about a great time. How many books did you publish? 15, 20? Yeah. I mean, you gave a
Well, I
lot.
told Ken a
all
long time ago that I was browsing. I told Ken a long time ago that I was browsing at the public library out in Richmond, and there was no Facebook or that's where
That's one of his books that went into a second edition.
yeah, so like, I really wanted to read that, and then Mel called and introduced himself. And I said, oh, I know you, because I know your book. And then I met Ken at that point.
Bob Cosman's thing.
Yeah.
Who was that?
That was Mel Clay.
Mel Clay, yeah, he called him Mel Clay.
Yeah, you know
That
Mel
was
too.
where that was how we met.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Mel called me and said,
Yeah, you better let me read.
yeah, and I said, well, I checked your book out of the library. That book you wrote about Kaplan.
Did you know Dick, I don't know his last name, who started the Green Apples?
Well, Dick Tony worked there, right?
What's that?
Rich, the boy, started it.
Rick, I called him Dick. I was there the first day, I was 15 years old when he opened that bookstore. And so, I got to know a little bit of Green Apples. I'll be 70 in August.
I'm 70.
Okay.
Well, I worked for him at 1975.
You worked for Richard? Oh, yeah. Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around.
He opened a winery.
I know, he finally sold the winery a couple
He
years
sold the
ago.
winery?
So as far as I know, he's living a life of luxury.
He's a real nice guy. Very soft-spoken.
Well, so soft-spoken you couldn't begin to understand. I said he was so soft-spoken you couldn't begin to understand.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, so Rich, what should I do? He said, well,
Well, you could stand there, and if you didn't say something, he wouldn't say anything. He'd just look at you. You had to hear the kind of propel the conversation.
no, that was a formative experience.
Did you know his ex-wife too?
Carol, yeah, she had already left the
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think they got married twice. No, I remember her telling me that. Checked it out? Amazing. I mean, little classics, you know, they're $14.95 now, probably. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, I don't know anything that, has not gone up substantially.
True, but books seem to really have jumped in price.
Yeah.
But I buy 90% of my books off eBay. I buy
Yeah,
used. That's fine, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You just wait a few days, they come.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, you don't have to buy the stuff, brand new. You just wait,
As long as it's not all marked up.
Yeah, true.
As long as it wasn't used for a class.
Yeah.
Who won the game, you know?
Oh, please don't. Just don't do that.
You don't want to find out?
No,
Don't
why
tell
can't you?
Don't tell
Not
me.
delay.
You're going to watch the game. Okay, I don't want to ruin it.
Come on.
No, okay. All right.
All right, here we go.
I think he's going to look. Don't tell. Somebody doesn't want to know.
Should introduce myself in the button.
Oh, you got it?
Okay, we're going to do the open session now. Jerry's going to preside over that, but I will start by reading one poem. It's entitled Nature Lover. Who doesn't love the myth of nature? Its golden hues and caressing skies, its eerie precision and wild caprice, its indigo flotsam and scarlet jetsam, its majestic rivers, rutabagas, and kittens, to say nothing of black holes replete with nothingness. Why, I love even the snakes that poison us, strangle us, and lead us astray, the red-eyed rats that devour our infants as we sleep, the green sunshine like a tropical holocaust, the blue azaleas like fistfuls of sand, the snow blindness and thirst as we root in the mulch of our delusions. Ah, nature. What better than trudging through the thistles, collecting a bouquet of crutches and cell phones, or stumbling through the weeds with the verse of nature poets tripping off our tongues? Once, combing the beach for shrunken heads, I even found an extinguished star whose light has yet to reach the earth. And of course, I do love nature. I'm being a little, you know. I don't want to get Mother Nature on my case or anything, but.
Thank you, Michael. So Michael is one of the first poets I met here in San Francisco. I'm from here, but we used to meet at Minnie's Can Do.
I remember.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Oh, well, I should have went to Mission, but I managed to go to Washington out there, and
Lincoln.
but I never finished high school, so it's like. But Michael's one of the first poets I knew. We used to meet at Minnie's Can Do. It was the first open mic kind of, poetry reading that I went to. And it was back in the late 60s, huh, Michael?
72, I think.
Yeah, and anyway, in the middle of the reading, we used to move all the chairs aside, put on the jukebox, and dance. That was fun. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So Michael is, I've heard his poetry for so long, and and followed his development and his. It's just, I'm just astonished at your poetry, after all this time, anyway. Okay, so I'm going to read a few poems here. This poem's for Susie Birkeland. Susie Birkeland, she died years ago. Jack Hirschman, it's epigraph. He said that just when she was coming to her prime poem, It's called Passing On, a song for Susie. Here is a circle, Susie. Here is a ring. Keep shining in your silence. Keep the secret of your song. Keep it sacred now you're gone. This world's a flimsy garment, a new one you've put on. Here's a shadow for your shoe. Here's a halo for a hat. We all loved you and you left us at the altar, with no excuses or explanations, just instructions for the next. The pain you folded in your wings became a flaming bridge of dreams. Where are you going, Susie? I asked. I'm going with you, she said. Still the song, flowing from the source, stops us in our tracks. And when we turn around to look back and remember how the season sheds its pale grief to grow us rough shapes of Susie's red posy, all sunlight and promise. It's okay, she said. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. This poem's called The Creation of the Small. In the night before the world, all the problems gather into a little ball of confusion. in amassing crises of shattered glass and broken houses, cracked vessels and crumbled towers, all the scribbled colors and desperate clinging, teeming silver fishtails, every unsymmetrical thing not yet figured out, caught in a grinning net of chaos. A worried sleep settles over our heads like a dark blanket. We haven't a prayer. And so it was, when all was lost, that out of this bungled mess, something happened. A feeling was expressed, a word. And all at once there was a reason for everything to exist. And like a smile on the face of a tiny white mite, each thing responded, was glad to be itself. And the little earth, turning ever so slowly to the sound of tinkling glass, became a perfectly clear-cut crystal ball, invisible to all but me. Okay. So, okay, our first poet is Brett Benson. Okay, thank you.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Put on my timer here.
Okay, 20 minutes.
Not after this day, man. Sonoma Sundays. Red swishes swirling in the tall glass as the notes of fruits and plants kiss the taste buds. Pour the grapes' vibrance, you noting hints and momentary visions where the vines speak, the conversations flow, a fountain dancing in the background, mist gracing our cheeks, ducks swimming in the green pool, moss trees hanging over the rock walls, multiple color roses along the driveway, of yellow and pink and orange and red. The pollen in full bursts for the waiting friends. On the oak or other wood tables, our friendships liven as the day blossoms, serene temperatures and sunlight. Soak in these tastings, the land and summer harvest, these notes I have heard before, being present with your surroundings. And if the wine hits the page, my spirit has come to a sublime field where I walk among the vineyards. And rather than becoming sad, I shall write and express the songs of the universe as I hear the lyrics. The brilliance of walking forward, drinks and paper and pen and love and expression as my glass is filled. That's the first one. And then the second one, I teach high school, is for my students, seniors that I'm graduating. It's called Always. Good luck wherever you're going. There's going to be many roads ahead. I hope that you mind the curves. And whatever you walk down, remember that, yes, you will face the challenges. You will face obstacles, and you will encounter fears you never thought possible. Such is the existence we have been given. I'm sorry that there isn't a manual for it. I would give you Gibran, Hafiz, Angelou, and many others. But trying to tell you how to live your life is not what I'm going to do. I'm going to simply say, good luck. You have the answers. See, when you dig deep within in times of life, I don't promise you that you will find the answer you are looking for, but it might be the answer that you need to hear. And wherever you go, go with love. Why? Because life is short. You don't know how long you have. And I know that you remember your past. But I'll tell you this right now. When I tried to end it by finding it in a bottle, it never found its way home. When you move forward in life, shake the earth, make your voice heard, and find your own sense of being, because you can listen to others, you can hear their perspectives, you can find the sages and seek their wisdom. But it is within you. Like the seed was once before an oak, like the baby chick is now the flying eagle. You are just beginning. Good luck. And remember, I'm only a phone call away. No matter where you go, good luck. I know that once you find it inside, you, like the harvest, will blossom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett and Fernando. Can't read your last name, Marchi. Fernando.
All right, it's bright over here. All right, I've got a book poem and a Salton Sea poem. It's called Dog-Eared. Unlike novels, books of poetry deserve dog ears, slanted creases, coffee stains. This one, for example, spoke to me on January 20th, 2022. This one will be worth revisiting in 20 years, will remind me of who I was, will tell me something new I couldn't anticipate today. Or it will tell my son, grown then, these words mattered for something, perhaps still do matter in a musty cardboard box, demanding a choice out on the sidewalk. Okay, that's my book poem. Anybody here been to the Salton Sea? Yeah, I love the Salton Sea. Down the road from the golf courses and date palm farms, down boron winds, lithium and arsenic and selenium, down corporate mining claims, white gold for the post-carbon world, 200 feet under ocean level. I stop at a quiet place on the inland sea, an accident of waterworks and realtor dreams. I park next to a lonely RV, its dwellers absent or asleep, leave footprints on the rounded sediment of salt and what else? A sacrifice of silent springs glistening in the dawn. Crunch over bones of a million dead fish. Who introduced them here in the middle of the desert? What did they think they were doing here? Or did they rise again briefly from Pleistocene ocean memories? My mother's photo album holds a picture of some American boyfriend standing in front of the neat plots of a new desert subdivision, asking her to come back to the States. He would build a house for her here. She never came back. Maybe broke his heart, but she kept that photo, holding on to its 50s dream of a vastness you could own with your eyes. The last seabirds still search, undeterred, for the salty crabs. I drive south a little further on, turn into the only town on this shore, what I imagine as the end of America. Asthmatic old men and grungy boys, bands of art students lost from the city, wandering the structures on the playa, husks of houses inhabited only by graffiti and angry pigeons, the economy of yard sales, one bar under a cell tower, mobile phones and electric cars, invisible currents on the road from Palm Springs to Lake Cahuilla. Is this where we all end? In a desert of salt, selling ourselves to the lithium miners. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. And is it Chris C?
Yeah.
Take as much time as you want.
All right. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. I'm usually good with ages, but once someone's been on the streets a while, it's hard to tell. They don't age so much from the years, but like their shoes, from the amount of road tread. From the liquor swilled and the harsh unsheltered winters, the drugs snorted, shot up, or smoked, the loneliness and hunger. This I thought while I looked at him. Seen him on both the east and the north side, but usually in the east. Right at the exit for 35th. He sometimes held the sign, but often just stood on the corner mumbling unintelligibly to the people in their cars. He always had on the same gray hoodie and sweats, and usually had spittle or drool near his lips and snot running from his nose. Probably seen him a dozen times. Probably not seen him a dozen times. He's hard to look at. I'm not a man, I'm a monster. On All Hallows Eve, mischievous in his masquerade, or a faceless man with many masks to cover the scar of empty space. A beast saliva dripping at thought of misery's taste. A forlorn jester, draped in the decaying remnants of dreams, slowly consumed by a corrosive need that wells up from my gut like bile, trapped in this vibrant tomb, driven mad by the sounds of the dead, till nails clawed concrete, as if they could pierce the veil of time, which has no meaning here.
Okay, and I think last was David Hutchison. Hello? Oh,
He's on his way.
right. Thank you.
Think I have more to say than I do, so I'm just gonna read these. This one's called Inclemency. Bygone trails long left unwalked that lead to nowhere's destinations. On either side of weedy paths scorched by the sun of years, intentions, and wayward necessity gone fallow, but not replenished, to spring to life's new seeds. Dormant still, but covered under, lay the sources there, waiting free and boundless as the seasons march across much wider vistas' lengths, leaving untrod and not tamped down or mined, but loosely shaped as earth. And this one I wrote about this place on the map. It's called the Portal. Halved by turbulences, of surges, that circumference of and in the window, first seen from a second party, from on hill above Pacifica. Those there and not waiting, or cold from elements, inviting unto the lands to warming huts in Yerba Buena. To be received yet shunned on to future ventures of animosity and vigilance, and wealth of frantic desire. So a fort arose and not far from the bay, but unbaked adobe walls and the fog of never close. The toil never ceases to offer efforts without reward, just the lasting burdens of fear and unsung lives. all in the confines prison of either guarded keep or flock, the denizens of early days and dwindling waters to be stalked. Conflagrations of such magnitude that gaslight transformed to lightning, and mighty rivers ceased to flow to trickles any time of day or night. Expositions of renown that draw from far and wide to celebrate the ages of modernity as past achievements and their failures lost to the mists of excess. The disappearance in the dunes to the gardens of the western lands out to amusement statues, staring at the flames of all antiquity. Down the halls of bustling streets and the rising shadows of ever taller conceived as spans and mighty constructs of two banks and furthest waters met. Deltas flowing through the reeds to push the tide away, past the skylines built on abandon up to the foothills of the fortunes. Modest gains of bullion trade winds that leave some floundering and stalled as echo anchored to the mast or many clubs that protect the wanton and alone. Jumped ship for the fields of Sierra loads that call to come to suffer winter's frigid climes to wait for dirt lettuce spring again. Return to hot house in the den of thieves to lose it all and start again to sleep it off unknowing and wake aboard once more. Current lines of flooding rivers at full tilt and swirling around the bends, these breaches of ages are all but not gentle rarifications of eponymous straits ashore. Hills as overlooks to glimpse the vastness of such waters and sands, of stretching lands themselves rising and falling harmonies much as waves below. Persistent without the rigid forms of east, these Pacific gems of welcome sun and wind and rolling clouds of density enveloping the city grand in reliefs of gray. Reached by land from peninsular trails or continental tracks or longer even round the Hope and for years that square-rigged sail right past. Waves of arrivals and departures, whether jump the ship left to fill abandoned wetlands and sleepless bars so dark to wake up back on deck. Always the resupply to carry forth the sums for gentry and the class to grow exclusive, and for some to maintain unrest of labor to put down with the forces of division's loss. As derived from plaster and removal, but to whom appeasement given well asked as before the larger looming reasons of all that's set aside in service of a cruel. Destined to remain the holdout of mercy's great conferrals on those who set forth here, on the ships of many, to hear the horn and light that signal welcome. Thank you.
See you all next month, first Thursday of the month, and don't, I got something for you, so good. Thank you so much, Dave. All right.
Thank you.
It all starts here. secret police will come around.
Because I'm infernally records.
Yeah. That's why it's risky to applaud, because later they can prove that you applauded. You can end up just tortured and imprisoned. Oh,
Oh man, no, I didn't know that.
I'm sorry, but
Saved
that's
it.
the reality of poetry.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, it's funny because in other countries I've been, especially Mayakovsky and different things, and so many, it's like, wow, something happens, and then you go,
Yeah.
oh, you were applauding so-and-so, so
Right.
you're going to end me on stage. It's like, all right, sure.
I think the enforcers.
You smiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The enforcers are in America will be so bored of a poetry reading. They're like, I'm not going there to watch who applaud. Forget it. Could you imagine somebody from that religious right to be a city spreading for this hierarchy? If you just sit there kicking the goods on us, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well, something's gonna happen.
Something's gotta give.
It's very much.
I think I signed them, I gave them, I put the amounts on them, they got money.
Holy, so see, we got you. We got you.
That's right.
Wow.
Well, you say I didn't sit there, but I paid. It's like when what's his name? Who got the village grandeur? Joe Gordon.
He ran club.
Did he run the village grandeur program? So at first it was just mostly Eastern European expat Bohemian,
Right.
Labradors, right?
Yeah.
But he wanted to open a club that he had to get an entertainment license. If he had entertainment, he'd have to have a license, and he had to put 2 bathrooms, and he only had 1 bathroom. And
Okay.
besides, it would cost money. So he decided he would just do poets. And they said, well, you know, Jamie, it's not entertainment. They're just acting.
Yeah, what the hell
They're
is
just
this
yakking,
thing?
right? Whatever he said. They're just, you know,
Oh, that's
boring.
right.
Right. So, and the cops came and they said, this is not it.
This is not entertainment, folks. We know entertainment.
These guys don't deserve a second bathroom.
Yeah.
It's okay. So he got away from it for a long time.
That is good. You know, that's funny because that's the identical story that I heard from the exit. Remember the exit?
The exit theater here in town.
No,
The
no.
exit.
It was a little cafe
Okay.
over there by the Winterland,
Okay.
like Pierce Street or something. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what happened. The cops came in and
Oh.
said,
You can't do this. And they said, look, is that entertaining? Come on, don't give me that. This is not entertaining.
That's exactly what happened.
Uh-huh. I think what they did was reconfigured the background story for your ears.
Well,
Were you there?
no. We had a protest on the steps of City Hall.
You did?
We
Oh
had
my
a
God, this is
poetry
awesome.
reading, and Joe Alioto came out and read a poem.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
The exit.
Did you and Tony play that?
Yeah, it used to
Oh,
go there.
that's what I heard. Okay.
Unless you're thinking about the bazaar or what the hell that other place.
Zaza, right?
Okay, you need a ride? No, you got a.
No, I got my bike. Yeah. All right. Struggling home.
All right.
Well, Eric is.
Yep.
Lisa, I don't know where these books are going, but
Well,
they're moving.
you know, it's nice to see some air, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just nice just to have another someone doing. Who knows?
It can't
Everything
hurt.
we do is kind of broadly rational.
Yeah, it's gonna change constantly. But
Yeah, it just.
it feels a little more romantic.
Yeah, just for visual.
But yeah, where are those books?
What are those books?
Where are those books?
Well, they actually, we found one. I think there were 2 or 3 that I was at a total.
This standstill.
Like the Steinbeck thing. Well, should I put it in the Holy Biography Center? That's what everybody thinks.
Yep, that's where it ends up. What?
Well, also, the very top above the literary biographies,
There can
have
be
you
something
realized?
there?
Yeah, there's that whole thing of just random
They're overstocked.
fiction
They're,
overstock. But I realized that
we've never sold any of those books.
I
We've
never
never
looked.
had to bring them
Oh,
in.
we never. Because you
I
never
mean,
sold
we
them.
have never added or subtracted from that overstock.
Well, I realize I never studied them. I got to look at.
Well,
next time.
there's the books that I thought here I need 2 copies of them. we could actually clean all that out.
We could do a
Yeah,
literary
expand
biography
it.
sale. I mean, everything too.
Yeah.
Literary biographies.
Yeah, we'll say we'll hire a couple teenagers to climb the ladder, right? Because I got a couple on payroll.
Oh, yeah. Someone did leave it. We saw the curriculum vitae or whatever. Left the thing. And the kid was very, very dramatic handicap. And you had to walk in and look at it. So your kid.
So you haven't talked to V. Vale about his research magazines and all that stuff?
Not really. Why?
I just want because he has a table
I
outside.
saw you had a table out
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
I just wondered.
Yeah.
Uh,
What is
So,
these?
he's research